Hi everyone, my name's Andy Kerr. I'm here from Bowers & Wilkins in one of the most iconic and special places known to music, the world-famous Abbey Road Studios. And even more so, I'm in one of the most famous studios there is within that building, Studio 2, where so incredible performances were made, not least of which, of course, were the Beatles, Pink Floyd, and many others that you'll all know and love. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to spend some time with some incredible people, some of the crew that work here, some of the engineers, some of the people responsible for the creation of all that music. And we're going to talk about what makes music special to them. So we're going to go through their favourite tracks. We're going to pull together an outstanding playlist from those favourite tracks. But along the way, we're also looking to pick out some unbelievable stories and some anecdotes. And just so you know, guys, you can check out the playlist we've created today on our social media. We'll be putting up all the links for you shortly. How do you rationalise the product style of music? Because that must be difficult for you guys to deal with.
I quite love listening to music that probably is not what I would listen every day. But I feel like, well, probably in a genre that I feel comfortable with, of course. And just find those little things that I'm like, that's an amazing production. Adds a lot.
Taylor Swift. Somebody put a Taylor Swift one in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like,
You know, and I mean, for, you know, the Americans, they have a standard. And, you know, she's very, very clever. The songs are poppy. You know, kids are going to want to buy them. The whole package is there. But there's going to be something in her music, that in her catalogue, that I would probably like.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not going to start wearing Taylor Swift badges and...
Any artist, though.
Oh, please do. I'd like to see.
Yeah.
I find that with you know, any artist, really, when we're doing like crazy compilations that we do, you mean like best of this artist that you would never normally listen to, and you think, oh God, do I have to do this?
But there's something, isn't there?
But you're sitting there thinking like, right, I'm on CD3 now, and then there's
some of it,
some really good tracks on here. You know that it's just sort of totally blowing you away, sort of thing. You think I wouldn't be seen dead listening to this, but this is.
Yeah.
Well,
If only we can edit things, that's all right.
this is great.
So here's an interesting question, right? Because I love that point you made earlier on about songs having a narrative and having a story. But I think some amazing songs or some amazing experiences just have nothing. There isn't a song, there isn't a narrative, do you know? It's literally like we're talking about with Sonic Youth, it's 2 minutes of noise.
Or it's an instrumental.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? It's like it's somebody just coming and literally just like laying down whatever it is. And there isn't a reason why. Beyond that was the thing that was in their heads at the heart at the moment when they played that song.
I mean, that's a nice thing about music in general. You don't need the lyrics if you want to tell something.
Yeah.
I think the sounds kind of speak for themselves.
A good example of that is Everything in Its Right Place, where Thom Yorke, I think on that album, used the cut-up technique, which stretches all the way back to William Burroughs and Beat Poets, and he was on the cover of Peppers, but I think literally you put words in a bag, or I don't know how he did it, but and pick them out. And one of the lines is, yesterday I woke up sucking on a lemon. I mean, it just sounds so right in the moment, in the music, in the sound bed.
I mean, that's different layers and different ways you can listen to things, right? You have a story, you have the lyric, you have the sound, you have, I don't know, something that it draws you into listening to that thing. Yeah, catches you in some way. And got to repeat.
But back on that cover version thing as well, that's where the lyrics are only one part of the song, right? Because different versions or different performances of the same song with the same set of lyrics by different artists have different outcomes. You know?
Yeah.
So you get...
If you would listen to a good cover, so I'd listen to The Mission's cover version of Tomorrow Never Knows. It's by far better. I know it's sacrilege, I shouldn't say things like that, but it is. It's the most amazing.
I've got to say that's one of the more abstract ones I was thinking of. I was thinking of Son of a Preacher Man or something like that, but that's...
Watchtower.
Well, that's about 15 different cover versions there, isn't it?
Don't You Worry About a Thing, Stevie Wonder, Incognito covered it. And you have to be very, very careful, as far as I'm concerned, if you cover Stevie Wonder versions, because the songs are sacred, the tunes are sacrosanct. But they did an amazing job, I felt.
Yeah.
And I spoke to Bluey about it, because I know him. And he thanked me for that.
Happy days. I'm a huge Dylan fan, so I was like putting together a couple of weeks ago, like the ultimate kind of Dylan cover version, because there's so many of his songs that have been covered, but all along the Watchtower. It's amazing to me how also, that point earlier on, how people don't know the origin of the song, right? Because they've heard so many different versions, and you know, like the Hendrix version is.
Well, that's the only one I know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Are you saying Bob Dylan wrote that? I don't even know.
I didn't know that. I thought that was.
I mean, you know, sometimes you got to hold your hands up. You know, music fans, like you said, music fans learn off music fans, and I've learned that off a music fan today. Fair enough. That's my fact of the day.
Same here. I didn't know that.
Didn't know that.
All I watched was Hendrix.
He was a massive Dylan fan, Hendrix. Yeah. He was like well into like I Dreamt I Saw St. Augustine. I think that was like one of his favourites because Hendrix like self-professed like not a great singer, and like Dylan as well. You know, not the most amazing set of pipes, but both of them can just like
rattle off songs.
Yeah.
You should check out those the Dylan basement tapes.
Oh, I love the basement tapes with the band. Yeah, that's
amazing.
So I want to pick up on that because you said interesting session, and you've mentioned the word interesting a couple of times as well. So interesting. Is it better to be interesting, or is it better to be kind of just smooth and relaxed and quick and everything going like it should go?
A bit of both, really.
That's exactly what I would have said.
Yeah, bit of interesting, not in a sort of like a chaotic type thing or disastrous, but interesting, like challenging, can be good.
Probably all going to agree.
You can be too interesting.
You want the session to be, go in a calm sort of way, but
yeah. All right. Listen, without naming names or putting anybody in embarrassing positions, give me some examples of challenging. No names.
Challenging.
Yeah. On
like a sort of musical basis or like a.
Either way.
It's very hard not to name names on that, though, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess it depends what mood you're in. Like some stuff like the avant-garde end of music can be like really super interesting, but if you're just waking up in the morning, you're not really going to want to put on like Steve Reich, or maybe you might. You know, some of that's quite sort of like meditative, and like you can just sink back into it.
That was your word from earlier on.
Yeah,
Symphony for six pianos.
Yeah. Or like piano phase, or
yeah, it's amazing. There's like six pianos, and they're all playing the same notes, and every now and again, one of them changes.
Yeah,
this thing sort of rolls and develops, and you think, well, it's a bit monotonous.
It's funny when you say interesting or challenging throughout this year, having been back since May mastering. We were the first guys back at the Coalface, so we've had no interaction with people since within the room since we came back in May. And at the time, I thought, oh, this is going to be easy peasy. You know, we're just doing the files. We haven't got the turns with us. You know, it's going to be, you know. But you know what? I miss the people, and I miss somebody, not every day, driving me mad, saying, "Can I hear that again? Can I hear that again?" The first fade you did, Jeff, was really, really good. Well, I've deleted that. Well, can you just do it again? You know, I miss all that. Strangely, but you know, good and interesting. Sean is bang on the money. A mix.
I think it's also comforting to have the artist with you when you're doing an album.
Yeah.
You know, because they've spent the last 9 months constructing this sort of thing. I think doing it remotely, you know, you're sitting there trying to make it sound as good as you can on your speakers.
Yes,
your
it's
system.
totally up to you, isn't it?
And then you send it to him, and then now he's listening to it on a set of speakers that you've never heard before. Yeah. And that sort of thing, and you're trying to then make a guess of what he's hearing and he's describing.
Yeah.
Oh, it needs more top. It's like, well, does it? You know, when he's here, you're
he's here driving you mad.
He's driving you mad, but at least you're hearing the same thing as he is.
Yeah.
And you're both allowing for the fact that, you know, even with subjectivity, that can be a very different thing. But you know, that sounds too bright or something like that, and then you both know it does because you're both there.
I think mistakes are really interesting, right? Because, I mean, again, it depends on the perspective. We were talking about product earlier on, and Taylor Swift being the most obvious example of the polished one. No mistakes, I imagine, get through to her recordings, right?
Doubt it.
But when they do get in there, I think sometimes it almost makes it feel more emotional to me. I don't mind it at all. Somebody pointed out on the Stones record, Satisfaction, you can hear Keith come in early. About 2 minutes in, just like one note, he comes in early on the rip, and it's like one note, but if you don't know it's there, you never hear it. If you do know it's there...
It's not going to bother me. I listen to jazz records, so, you know...
If you remastered that and removed it...
If you remastered it and removed it...
They'd be burning wicker effigies of you outside.
Exactly right. Why did you cut that click out? It was artistic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've taken clicks out and we've put them back in again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think, oh, we shouldn't really take that out, maybe. It's kind of there, and it was there. Yeah, but would they have tried to...
It's amazing to hear that, because like you're saying, they reclaim it immediately. The musicianship is so good that that's what you're listening for. You're not listening to, oh, there's a slight mistake there. It's more, wow, the recovery after it, and then the rest of the playing on the track.
There are forums full of people that do, though.
If it was on the original record, it was on the original record.
Yeah.
You know what? Everybody loved it.
Yeah. And it's just another example of that for me was like listening to a live, a Brand New Heavies, the album they did, I think, with a lot of hip hop artists kind of rapping over their backing. And just, I remember hearing one, when they all launch into the beat, you hear, I think the guitar was coming in, it was really slow, the funky riff that was being set up. And then you hear the bass and the drums catch up and speed up, and then they all lock in. And you wonder, so in some context, people might actually tidy that up and replace it. But the joy of it is actually hearing the way they all kind of get back in time with each other and speak.
So that's a great point, and I really want to pick on that slice of time thing, because we were talking about that yesterday as well, right? How music is like a slice of time. Like, you only got into Sonic Youth this year, and that was what, 1992, Incinerate, that album, I think?
No, that was 2006, I think.
2006,
Around,
wow,
that was
okay.
one of them ones,
Later. Okay, but it's still a while ago, right?
Yeah.
So, is that important? I mean, if you capture especially for you two guys, right? I mean, you're capturing slices of time all the time, right? And is it changing the character of that, or preserving it that's the important thing?
Preserving it, I think. Preserving the intention.
But then I imagine you've got to do some kind of creative interpretation yourself of what the intention actually is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why it's really nice to have the person with you. Because they know what the intention is, because they created it. Having to try and guess what that is. I mean, there's intention in remastering and intention in new mastering are two different things. One is one doesn't matter so much. With the new mastering doesn't matter so much because no one's ever heard it before.
Yeah.
You know, but when you're doing something that's historical, where anything, fans have listened to that and they're expecting to hear it in a certain way, and you have to accept the fact that the sound on the disc is like that because that's how they wanted it. And whether you think, you could go through the, Beatles catalogue, for instance. You can think like, well, did they really want that? Mm-hmm. Like that? Because it sounds much better if you do this. Mm. But you can't do that.
So, okay, here's an interesting question. And if you get stuff like Zeppelin with the Houses of the Holy, and you can hear all the print through of the analog reel, and you can hear early kind of ghosting before it starts. So that's not a mistake within the performance. That's a mistake within the recording technology.
It's a victim of the technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you fix that?
You can't.
You can't really.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounded like the original record. If it's on the original record, then you've got to kind of preserve that. Even though if you used all of your tools available to you, you might be able to make it sound sonically better. Yeah. But you mustn't sonically change it.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So again, the sound that they wanted and they got in the studio is what was there. And that's what they strived over many months to I mean, a lot of
remastering really is like, well, kind of why? Because I'm not saying you should get a copy of the vinyl record and dub it from disc and knock it out. No, you shouldn't. But generally, if something's been remastered in CD prep days or whatever, it's probably quite a good job. But to just keep remastering stuff over and over and over again,
ad nauseum is probably
really,
because you start running out of things of what do you do to it. I think taking out erroneous clicks and bangs, which you think that maybe they would have tried to take those out had they had the facilities to do
at the time.
The other problem is if with stuff that's been set in a tape box for a long time, there's introduced problems. Edits that aren't quite as
that's technical.
So there's clicks, buzzes, and stuff like that.
If the tape plays okay, and you can compare it to an original pressing, and they're close,
well, you leave it be. You leave it be.
So do you think that slice of time thing, what we're talking about here, which is leaving it be, kind of capturing it as it was at that point, is a big part of the reason why people like music? Because we were speaking a little bit about that before, about it evokes, and you mentioned it earlier on as well, it evokes a memory of a time and a
Yes,
place.
of course. Not
and
only
it has
that.
to be that memory. It can't be. It can't be
I've
changed.
got quite a few of them. Yeah, definitely.
It's not all. I mean, it's obviously about the record and the process of recording it, and the process of mixing it, and the process of mastering it, which each step adds a value, right? Because it passes through hands of professionals and people that are putting their craft in it. But if you go even before that, it is the performance. So you're capturing that thing in time. You don't want to take
the song.
Yeah.
Totally.
You don't want to take out value from the musician's performance. Otherwise, you would have all records that are perfect. They're all on the grid. We would take the multi-tracks from old things and just cut it and just put it. It would be probably sound awful.
It's pretty much how
we don't
classical
want
stuff's
that.
done. With a big classical release, you could have had like 1,000 edits in an hour, which is it's like that. That's not how they played it, because if you go and see them at the Albert Hall,
they
play it all the way through, don't they? You know, and the same with bands that don't. When they go into their recording session, they don't all play together. They'll come in and they'll have a little guide track or something like that, and the guitarist will then sit on the sofa and he'll do his bit, and then the bass guitarist, he'll do his bit, and the drummer will do his bit, and then it's all sort of compiled afterwards. There's no energy, life. When they've recorded the band together in the room, they're all feeding off each other.